fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration, the Wednesday edition. I've got the Giant Slayer, Mr. Tyler Vasseur. He's going to be on in 2 seconds. Just a quick thing that Mallory sent me, and then I'm going to get into Tyler, my interview with Tyler Vasseur. But Mallory is kicking the shit out of things right now as far as From 8 Arbitration, the website, getting things together. If you get on there, you'll see what she's done. It's absolutely amazing, and that's for you. But what she's doing is, she says, one of my goals as NALC educator is to make information easily accessible so others can learn and grow as carriers and stewards. Education is power. So in doing this, I'm calling for the help of the membership. If you have a case file, a grievance starter template, a training document, or any other kind of resource others could benefit from, please submit it to me at fromadaarbitration.com/contact or email it to me at mallory@fromadaarbitration.com. This includes any branch websites that have such resources. I provide credit when posting outside links. Please remove any sensitive information about individuals before sending case files in. We don't want to dox people without their express permission. I'm going to read that one more time because shit's fixing to get real as far as educating people being able to educate themselves. She says, one of my goals as NALC educator is to make information easily accessible so others can learn and grow as carriers and stewards. Education is powerful. So in doing this, I'm calling for the help of the membership. If you have a case file, a grievance starter template, a training document, or any other kind of resource others could benefit from, please submit it to me on fromadaarbitration.com/contact. I'm going to say that again. fromadaarbitration.com/contact or email it to me at mallory@fromadaarbitration.com. This includes any branch websites that have such resources. I provide credit when posting outside links. Please remove any sensitive information about individuals before sending case files in. We don't want to dox people without their express permission. So that's from Mallory to y'all. So make sure you do that. I'll read that every week. All right. And let's get that database up and running so people can get on there and learn. And that's what it's all about. When the CLC takes over in 26, we need as much education as possible before we get there because we're going to hit the ground running. All right. We're going to hit the ground running in 26 when we take over. And so educate yourself as much as you can. And that way, when we get in there, we will, like I said on day one, we're going to hit the ground running, okay? CCA Corner. Make sure you're telling your CCAs to listen to CCA Corner. That thing is growing immensely, and I'm very pleased with that. We need to reach as many CCAs as possible with that. So CCA Corner, Mr. Henry was on there last night, and that episode was put up. And so get on CCA Corner, listen to that. It's a very good resource. With that being said, Mr. Tyler Vasseur with Build a Fighting NALC. We talked for about 45 minutes. I'm the guy's biggest fan. I tell him that all the time. I think he's a beast. I call him the Giant Slayer because I watched him stand at that mic and take on the establishment in front of 10,000 people. And I was extremely proud of that young man. So without further ado, here he is, Mr. Tyler Vasseur. Y'all enjoy. I will see y'all next Sunday, all right? And we're going to get back into 6-day counts, some fun stuff, all right? So I'll talk to y'all then. Love each and every one of you. Love each and every one of you, all right? And I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. All right, I've got the Giant Slayer, Mr. Tyler Vasseur. Mr. Tyler Vasseur on. I haven't seen him in a while, man. It's good to see you. Look at you.
It's
Hair
good to see
looking
you, Corey.
good.
Thanks
Hair
for having
looking
me.
good. Build a Fighting NALC. Y'all have been extremely busy. I see different chapters popping up all over the place. I think you just got one in Buffalo.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yep.
And so I love to see it. I've always said that your movement is an embarrassment to the NALC, that we would have to have a movement called Build a Fighting NALC. I think that any person that has ever been involved with the union should be embarrassed that these young kids have gotten to get together and say, hey, we're sick and tired of the union not doing anything, so we're going to build our own movement to try to kick you on the ass to do something for us. I love your movement. I've always been behind your movement, Tyler. I think you're incredibly bright, and I think that y'all are spot on, even though it's an embarrassment to us old heads that there has to be a movement called Build a Fighting NLC. I never thought that I would see that, but here we are. Here we are. I'm proud of you, man, and
Thank you,
everything that
Corey.
you've done. Kind of watched y'all from the very beginning take off. Your shining moment to me, and I talk about this all the time, was in Boston when you stood in the face of that, and the administration came down. The good old boys came down and went against you, and you stood in the face of that shit. So in front of everybody, man, I respect the hell out of that. I think you're a fucking titan, and your movement is incredible. And how's that for an intro?
I appreciate. I'm flustered a little bit. I don't know where to begin. I really
Man,
appreciate that. Well,
I'm gonna let
Corey,
you have it, brother. You run with it, man. I'm gonna let you have it, and then I'll probably come on the other side of it. We'll talk a little bit, all right?
that sounds good. Feel free to interrupt and come in whenever you feel like it. But I
Yes, sir.
appreciate that intro. I gotta say this. It's more than just one person, though. I try to say this every time. There are in reality hundreds, if not thousands, of NELC members across the country who are getting organized, getting involved in the union, want to transform this thing. And I just on the I every so often you got to write the course, you got to write the ship. That's something that happens even in the best of organizations. And so Build a Fighting NELC is just follows in that long tradition of the labor movement of writing the ship. I think unions are a good thing, but I think every so often certain leaderships can take it in the wrong direction, or broader things that are happening in broader society can kind of push things off kilter. And so the real embarrassment would be if we did not start to get organized to fight to transform this union. That would be the real embarrassment. And so I think we've got a lot ahead of us, but I think we're on the right track. So I want to talk about the results. I think this is a truly historic moment for our union. I think most of the listeners should know by now, but our contract was rejected. The sellout contract was rejected by an over 2-to-1 margin. I mean, I couldn't have been happier when I heard that news. Turnout was only around 50%, but because people have been saying, well, we only had 50% turnout. Well, let's look at the numbers a little bit. We had around 15% increase in turnout compared to the last contract. And I think this is really important. More members voted to reject this contract than voted in total for the last contract. So, there was an increase of about 20,000 plus extra votes. I'm sure 90% of those at least were no votes. And people who had voted probably to accept the last contract voted to reject this one. And so it's good to see concretely how far we've come. I think we should celebrate a little bit. We should celebrate the win, but we should also be sober about how much further we have to go to increase membership participation in our union. This is only the second time in NELC's 55 years of collective bargaining history that a contract has been rejected. The only second time. Last time this happened was 1978. I'm sure people probably sick of hearing me talk about that. But in 1978, I think there's a lot of parallels here. The main issue then was USPS attempting to put a cap on COLA, on the cost of living adjustments. That cap on COLA was defeated. They voted down that contract. They defeated that cap on COLA. That no vote in 1978 was organized. It didn't come out of nowhere. It was organized by a rank and file reform caucus, a movement within the union. Back then, that was a group that came out of the 1970 Wildcat strike and organized over years to a series of democratic internal reforms, won things like one member, one vote for national officers. There's our previous, if you look at the convention booklet, it's a treasure trove of interesting and wonderful things that our union has fought for and won and has on the books technically from that era that I really want to dig into, and I think we can learn a lot from. So they defeated that sellout contract in 1978, and then shortly thereafter, Wildcat strike leader, reformer Vincent Sombrado was elected to the national presidency. So there's a lot of parallels, like I said, between now and 1978. Back then, workers were dealing with their own inflationary times. There was an insurgent reform movement within the union and a desire to fight for more. And so, I mean, our own history and the vote results bode really well for the reform movement today, I'd say.
Let me ask you something. You have to excuse me. I'm getting over the flu.
It's no
But
problem.
your numbers, 2 to 1, 60 something thousand to 20 something thousand was the vote. A 15% increase, you say, from the last tentative agreement that was voted on. More votes tallied, more no votes tallied this time than combined the last tentative agreement. I think that's what you said.
That's right.
You look at everything leading up to that, Tyler. You have this kind of ground roots movement. Y'all were heavily involved.
Hmm.
You look at this kind of boots on the ground thing, rallies everywhere, people getting into the newspapers, um, Zoom meetings. How many Zooms were we on, during that period of time,
Hmm.
and things like that? What do you attribute? Because you can say 15% increase. That's a large increase if you
Hmm.
think about it, dealing with numbers. You had 60 something thousand, if you think of that number, voted no. So, what do you attribute that to? Is it all the things that I just said? What can we do? We've got an election coming up in 26. What can
Hmm.
we do to up that 20%, 30 more percent?
Yeah, well, I think on that last point, how do we get the numbers higher? I mean, one of the mission statement, one of the missions of BFN, and I think the CLC would agree with this and the broader reform effort is that we got to make the union real for people. We got to make the union a real force on the workroom floor. When you make the union a real force, you'll have higher participation. You'll have higher turnout to meetings. You'll have more members stepping up and taking positions. Right now, in a lot of places, unfortunately, the union is not seen as a real force on the workroom floor. It's real different in different places. Some places you got a strong steward, you have a strong union presence, you have a long union consciousness amongst workers. But in a lot of places, the union is at best an insurance agency for people. And that hurts me to say, but that's the reality. That's what we're working with after years really of it falling to the wayside in a lot of places. But what do I contribute the increase in turnout and the historic no vote? I think the overarching factor is inflation. We just saw a presidential election that, regardless if you agree with it or not, a lot of people were voting based off of inflation. They're voting based off of feeling precarious economically, um, and I think that was a huge factor in our in our own union in this contract vote. Working class people are pissed off. We're seeing our living standards fall, and we want to fight for more. Another factor was the immense anger and lack of confidence in our national leadership at Renfroe in particular. But I think those are two factors that are really important. But really importantly, I think those two alone, I'm not sure if those two alone, without BFN, without CLC, without these other forces, I'm not sure a no vote would have won or would have won by as much. Really importantly was the role of this growing reform effort within our union that were shaping and forming that anger and frustration into an organized expression. BFN, CLC, Carif's campaign. Like it's not enough to just to be mad. You got to organize that into a positive direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And two things. You talk about Renfro, and I think that he was his own worst enemy. You
Oh yeah.
cannot come out and make all of these promises knowing when he's making these promises, he knows what's going on already.
Hmm.
You know that you're not getting 9%. He knows that already. It was 1.3. He's the one who made the proposal. I don't know why he would come out and say that because the truth is going to come out. It's not like you can hide that. I mean, it's going to come out that it's not 9%. When you make these promises like an all career workforce, people hear me talk about it all the time. It's going to be a non starter. Well, if we have CCAs, you're
Hmm.
going to get a substantial raise. And so people are kind of like, it's going to be historic. And people are like, hey, this sounds pretty damn good. 9%, we can work with that. Inflation's bad, but 9% might drive us over the top a little bit.
Hmm.
And then you see the numbers. And I think, like I said in that video, it kind of lit a fuse. And then here we are in the streets. I think he was his own worst enemy. I don't think that you come out unless your movement is huge on open bargaining.
Hmm.
We want open bargaining so we can see what y'all are doing. We don't want to know the game plan, but you can tell us these are the things that we're shooting for. We're not going to go up under this. I think that would have helped him immensely if he would have had open bargaining so that we could kind of follow along during this
Hmm.
process. But to make promises that you know that you're not going to keep, and then to come out with a TA that was an embarrassment. I think that the city letter carrier fed on that, and I think that you saw people in the streets like I've never seen before, probably since
Hmm.
1970. So I think that was one of the things that attributed to that. I loved when you said that people don't see the union as real. On social media, you see all the time people that are complacent. There's and they're down in the dumps, and I don't blame them because we have the worst administration we've ever had with Renfroe and Barner, and people are saying it doesn't matter who gets in there.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter who gets in there. It's always going to be the same because they're used to people not fighting for them, and there's Bill to Fighting NALC. But they're used to people not fighting for them. So that was a great point when you said that people need to see that the union is real, that they're going to be here, they're going to fight for us, that what they say they mean. And unfortunately, I said long ago that Renfro's digging a hole faster than we can put dirt back in it. He's digging it that fucking fast that when the CLC takes over, and I'm going to continue to say that until we do, but until the CLC takes over, he's digging us in such a hole that we can't put shit in it fast enough because of his incompetence. And so that was a great point when you said that people need to see that the union is real. And so, how do we do that? I mean, we can continue to do things like we're doing, but how do you do that? How do you persuade people? Hey, you need to get out and vote. We've got to make this change. We're real
Hmm.
without us being in office to show you that we're real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, on Renfro himself, I feel like he's going by an old playbook that might have worked in a different period of time, but people have heightened expectations. Again, it comes back to inflation. If people see, especially a union that used to secure a high standard of living for its members, for all the issues, it's not like it was all, sunshine and roses in the 90s. Obviously, there was a whole difficult period for working class people in general, but like a union that used to you got a post office job at the post office, you were set. You were you were blue collar
Yes.
royalty. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I was there.
yeah, right. And so that, seeing how things used to be combined with seeing your living standards fall, it's a different period of time, and the old tricks, the old playbook, it doesn't work. We need new, fresh ideas. Of course, we can learn from our own history, and there's good stuff there, but it's not 2005. It's not 1996. I think in terms of making it real for people, there's no easy answer. It's going to be a slog. It's not enough just to say you stand for something different or to say you're opposed to something. You got to say you stand for something in opposition to that. That's one step in the right direction, but that's not enough. People have to see it. They have to experience it firsthand. And that's why I think this Vote No campaign was so important. This vote was a huge win for all NELC members, obviously, but especially those that helped organize this Vote No campaign. We didn't just rely on momentum. BFN organized the Vote No campaign launch. CLC spoke at, and others had over 700 in attendance back in, when was that? October or November.
Mhm.
Out of that, we encouraged people take these flyers with materials as a program, an alternative vision of what letter carriers need, what we can fight for. People organized Vote No group photos, parking lot meetings and rallies. To me, that's the most inspiring thing. You get people there a half an hour early, meet in the parking lot, discuss the TA, make a game plan to vote, take a group photos. I mean, Vote No group photos spread across social media. That turns passive support for a no vote into active. That made people actually, basically, entire stations were collectively voting on this contract. It was a collective action. And that's just, Vote No recommendation resolutions were passed in over 50 branches. these are the types of things, and this is just in the context of the no vote, but these are the types of things and these collective actions that make the union real for people. And I'm sure there's lots of other ideas and examples that that members have in this union of how to do that. But those are just a couple of my thoughts of how we use this opportunity to do just that.
So what happens? This is pure speculation. Repercussions for those that branch presidents, business agents, those that came out vehemently defending this TA and trying to tell us that, hey, this TA is beneficial to the city letter carrier when the city letter carrier is looking at a plate of shit,
Hmm.
like I've said, with a fork in it. For those presidents that came out not saying, hey, read it, vote how you see fit, but actively defended that TA and Brian Renfroe and those business agents that actively defended that TA. And because to me, the TA was 100% a management TA.
Hmm.
100, you can't point to one single thing in there that said, hey, this benefits the city letter carrier. That's honestly how I feel. So, Tyler Vasseur, what repercussions do you see? Because you've got a wide reach. You talk to a lot of people. You see a lot of shit. Even your own branch, I think, has dealt
Sure.
with some of this.
Hmm.
The repercussions of those that chose the establishment over the city letter carrier. What do you think that's going to be?
I think there's going to be a reckoning within our union. I think it'll be uneven. I think it'll be, it'll flare up here and it'll flare up there as different elections are happening around the country. I think there'll be new leaders will come to the fore, and not just leaders that come to the fore and run for elected positions. That's one thing. Of course, that's going to happen. But I think there's going to be new leaders from the rank and file that come up, like so many of us have across in this union across the country that maybe don't necessarily immediately run for a position, immediately take over the presidency or something, but get organized, get a group of people around them, perhaps start a BFN chapter and push for, these ideas in their branches. But I think there's going to be a reckoning. And again, it's going to be uneven. It's going to happen in different times in different places. But I think the tidal wave, I mean, it's coming. It can't be stopped now. I think we have, I think if we can reach a majority of members with a solid program, that one that BFN is fighting for example, I think would have support of a majority of members. But it's a question again of organization. And
Yeah.
I think I don't think that old approach. I think there's going to be a lot of people who supported a yes vote or maybe tried to keep quiet, who are going to maybe were fence sitters that are going to act like maybe they supported a no vote the whole time. Hey, I'm all for people having a genuine change of heart if they want, if people realize they were wrong. There are leaders across the country who I think probably genuinely realize they were wrong and want to do what's best and are now on board with fighting for a stronger contract. But there, at the same time as those genuine people, there's going to be those who I think who do it just to save face. There's going to be every stripe, every color, and every stripe of person that, and so we just have to be clear. We're happy to take people who maybe have had a change of heart, but I think we also have to be on the lookout for those who are trying to jump on the bandwagon. And I think continue to organize this reform movement and change this union one branch at a time, one station at a time.
Yeah, I've seen things. You talk. You're big on history of union, history of the NLC. I see things and people that I have talked to at different levels. I think it's fixing to be a slaughter uh, come this next election. I think it's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen. And that's just from people that I have talked to on both sides, people that are against me and against the CLC. I know it's hard to believe, Tyler, but there are people that don't like me. And
Yeah,
isn't that hard to believe? Because I'm a
no,
nice
it is
guy,
very hard to believe.
you
Yeah.
know? But they agree that they've never seen anything like what happened. That's the reason on my episode the other night I said they never saw us coming, Tyler.
That's right.
We were in the streets, we were all over the place, but they never saw us coming until it was too damn late. And I
Hmm.
think that 60 is a drop in the bucket to what's going to happen to them come next year in election time. You cannot turn your back on the city letter carrier.
Mm-hmm.
They are unforgiving, and they're like elephants. They don't forget, and they were hot and irate, and they won't change. And I think that this is going to multiply until 2026, and I think it's going to be an absolute slaughter in that vote for those that decided, hey, we're going to choose Renfroe over the city letter carrier and this TA, which is a pro management TA, and that's the reason I think it got it a foot in the ass like it did.
I think you're right. I definitely agree. On that note, I want to talk about we've seen a sort of change of heart, to put it that way, from Renfroe and the national leadership on the approach to the contract after this no vote came out. And after fighting against open bargaining, our resolution for open bargaining, after fighting against the idea of transparency, fighting against the idea of the need for public rallies to build momentum and pressure, leadership has now come out in favor of organizing a contract rally in DC. After the first day of renegotiations opened up, Renfroe came out with a video update. I think he did one last night as well. I haven't had a chance to watch the second one, stating that NELC's position. I mean, my jaw dropped. I was showing it to my girlfriend. That, oh my God, what is happening? Came out and said that the position of NELC is very similar to the positions that BFN's been fighting for months. In all career work, he says, in all career workforce, abolishing the two-tier pay scale, getting rid of table 2, moving everyone up to table 1, and then in effect, 100% COLA based on our formula across all steps. And I couldn't believe it. And then seeing the response online, there's been a lot of anger online, right? Members asking Renfroe and the leadership where they were for the last year when the rank and file was fighting for us. Well, they were fighting against us for the
Yeah.
last year, right?
Well, it's
But
self-preservation.
Absolutely. And I think members are worried about this is about leadership trying to save face or co-opt our movement. And I think that's it's true. It's understandable. It's true to a degree. I think I see it a bit differently. Of course, this is hot air. Renfroe knows that USPS won't agree to those things and knows it'll probably be forced to arbitration, that they have to look like they're at least trying to put up a fight. But I think while that can be true at the same time that this is true, this is a huge win for the reform movement in NALC. This is a huge win for BFN because it shows that pressure works, that demands and a program works. We want our national union to take up a fighting program. A lot of the ideas that BFN is fighting for, and seriously fight for the things that letter carriers need. Because us getting organized, putting out demands, organizing this huge no vote, that was the kicker against this sellout contract. We forced leadership to take up at least a fighting posture. We forced them to publicly say and do things that they said were impossible and that they would never do. And so, I mean, just that alone. Those two things can be true at the same time. That this is an attempt to save face, and it shows the strength of the organized reform movement within our union. And I think we just have to keep both those in mind because I've seen a lot of anger, just in one side of it. So.
Yeah. Well, carriers aren't fools, and we see that we didn't hear a peep from you in 600 days.
You're
Matter of
right.
fact, y'all are making motions at the national convention where we could hear a peep, and they sent everybody down there to go against you. And I know that Cariff had something in there. And so we're not fools.
Mhm.
You don't get your ass beat like that. And then all of a sudden, I'm for open bargaining. This is what we're talking about. The carriers, they see what's happening, that self preservation. He knows he's lost. He
Mhm.
knows he's lost. I, you know, I admire him for getting out there and saying, "Hey, I've got a change of heart." Here's negotiation 101. Okay, Tyler.
Mhm.
This is negotiation 101. You come out and you tell me that we're not going to settle for anything less than 9%. All right. We're not going to settle for anything less than 9%. I'm going to tell my members that out loud so that will be on the record that I will not settle for anything less than 9%. I go in there on day one with the Postal Service and I say, I can't settle for anything less than 9% for my members. That's a promise that I made to them that I will
Mhm.
not settle for anything less than 9%. And the post office is either going to say yes or no. And so negotiations may last one damn day. Because I've told you, my members, that it's going to be 9% or nothing. Now he's all of a sudden talking about, well, we put this financial package in, and that's his favorite thing. This financial package, the package that's financial, and all these things here, and it's a package, and this package is financial. You know, if you ever listen to him, I want to rip his lips off because of he says package so much, like it's like you know, what I'm saying, just put emphasis on that package, but anything that happens now, he could have gotten 600 days ago. Anything that come to us now could have been done back then. You came to us like we're idiots, saying, here's the best that I could do. He said it. Here's the best that I could do. Here's the best we could do. We squeezed every penny out of them. And then you get your ass handed to you, and then you're going to come back later and say, well, we upped it to this. You know, what the fuck is that? You know, 700 days later now, you're going to tell us, well, maybe I didn't squeeze every penny I could out of them. I squeezed just a little bit more. What were you doing for 600 days? What happened to that? That you came out with 1.3%? You know, but to me, you say 9% or nothing else, and they say can't do it. See in arbitration. That's how that works. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before on a previous interview that we had done, but we got to get away from this idea. And this isn't the members' fault. This is I think the leadership of a lot of the unions for the last sort of many years, and Renfroe in particular, that they treat demands or they treat a program like it's a promise. It's not a promise. Demands are not promises. They're goals that we fight for collectively. If you go in and you say, we're fighting for $30 an hour, well, maybe you don't win a $30 an hour starting wage. You win 28 bucks, but that showed the balance of forces at that given time in negotiations. Okay, well, then we regroup and we see how we can get better organized and how we can win more next time. You know, and so this idea that, and this isn't members' fault for being mad about Renfroe saying, promising this or that. That's on Renfroe. That's on the leadership of the unions for doing that.
Yes.
And so that just drives me crazy. You know, I think that we really got to hit that hard. And I hope that CLC will takes that into heart. And I think if you are upfront with people about it, and you're transparent about it from the beginning, there won't be all this hate. There won't be, because people will understand, okay, we didn't get everything that we said we wanted, but that shows how I got to talk to my coworkers. We got to get more people out to the next rally. We got to escalate these actions to fight for more, you know, so that's
perfect. Perfect. Here's our goals. Here's what and that goes back to your open bargaining. Here's our goals. We want to get a starting wage at whatever. For CCAs, $28 an hour starting wage for CCAs. That's our goal. $30. That's our goal. We want 100% COLA. That's our goal. Yes, that's what you do. And you come out and you tell the members, here's what we're going after for y'all. We're going after these things. And this is exactly what we're proposing to the Postal Service. You don't have to tell us what you're going to show, what you're going to do, how you're going to negotiate. But these are what we're going to do. What you don't do, and I'll say it again, what you don't do is you don't say it's going to be this or nothing else. It's going to be 9% or nothing else. And you come to us with 3.9%. It shows that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, that you are willing to lie to your members for whatever reason, because it's going to come out that you're full of shit. So yes, and I agree with you. The CLC better understand, learn a lesson from this rookie that goals are good. Don't make promises that you know that you're not going to keep. And that's the problem with this cat. That's the reason when people see those videos you're talking about, all the comments are mocking the shit out of him because nobody trusts him, because you just lied to us over and over and over again. For 600 days, you lied to us. And now here you are, you know, in a bathtub full of shit, because you have lied to us this entire time, and you sit there blinking like crazy on these videos because you know the people you're talking to know you're full of shit.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah. The other thing that the other sort of change of heart that we're seeing is that now national leadership has come out saying that they're date to be determined, but that we will be organizing a contract rally in DC. And as far as I know, it's only planned for Washington, DC at the time. At the moment, you know, again, people are, angry about that, upset. Where have you been? We've been fighting for this for a year. Well, we've been fighting for this for a year, and we've finally, on the back of a strong no vote, the second time in our union's history we've ever voted down a contract, we've forced them to do this. I think this is a good thing, but there should be a call for nationally coordinated contract rallies. It's what we've been calling for years. The contract rally in April of 2023 in Minneapolis is in many ways what kickstarted this whole thing. But we wanted it the whole time to be nationally coordinated for as much media coverage as possible, for to build as much public support as possible, as much pressure as possible as we go into arbitration. And so if the leadership only calls for it in DC, then BFN is going to put the call out there for the need for nationally coordinated rallies on this across the country on that same day. I'm on the Branch 9 executive board now as the editor of our newsletter. I'm putting together this month's edition. And we just met yesterday and we agreed to organize a rally for that day. Whenever that date comes out, that Nationals doing theirs in Washington, D.C., Branch 9 will be organizing one here in Minneapolis to coordinate as much as possible. And we encourage all other branches to do that as well. If they only call for it to be in DC. So that's the kind of thing we've been fighting for a long time here now.
Yeah, so people want to start a BFN chapter.
That's right.
How do we do that? If I'm in so and so, man, we got 4 or 5 carriers that are fired to fuck up. We're wanting to see change. We're wanting to help make change, and we are drawn to this
Hmm.
movement, this build of fighting in ELC. That's where we feel like we can put all of our energy. We're behind it 100%. How are we going to do that? How are we going to start our own chapter of the BFN?
That's right. I'll plug it at the end as well before we get off here. But best thing to do first of all is come not this Sunday, but next Sunday, February 16th at noon Central Time. That's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. There's going to be a BFN Zoom meeting to talk about to celebrate this win a little bit, but to draw out the lessons of the Vote No campaign. Why did we win? How did we win? Discuss the next steps and highlight the places where BFN is getting organized, where it is starting chapters, and how you can get involved. That's the best place to come. But like you said, I really want to encourage people. Not everyone, we've got chapters started in a number of places with many more in the process. I want to encourage people. Maybe it's just you and one other person right now. Or maybe it's just you in your branch or your station. Can you find one other person that's interested in and talk about our program? Talk about the issues that BFN stands for and what we're fighting for and how we want to fight for those things. If you have one other person, can you find a handful, a core that can make up the core of that BFN chapter there? You're always going to have a core of people, two, three, four, five, six people that are really and deeply involved, and a periphery of people who you can get involved every once in a while when big things are happening. But really importantly, find that core. Maybe that means one other person now. Maybe you already have one other person. That means finding a few other people. And so where we're starting chapters where we do have those handfuls of BFN members, BFN supporters. And in other places, people are just getting started, finding those couple people that can build up that core to eventually build a chapter with. But I'd say yeah, that come to this Sunday, we'll be highlighting not just the contract, not just the lessons for how we won, but also how we're getting organized in these different places. We have material and we'll be updating the BFN website, fightingnalc.com, more and more as we come out with more material, but we have documents about the history of where BFN came from. It wasn't just like I and a few other people in Branch 9 decided one day, hey, you know what? We got to build a reform caucus. It came out of the fight for open bargaining, and there's a history there, and I think that's important. But we have a document that we will be sending out after that Sunday the 16th meeting of two documents. One about the history of BFN, where do we come from, what do we stand for, where we're going, and the second one is a blueprint for how to get started. What is a chapter of BFN? What does it look like to get started? And what are the steps to get there? And it's not a process you can rush. I want to encourage that for people. So don't worry if you can't immediately launch a chapter, but we want people to get together and discuss these things and vote to become chapters. And so we've got that in a number of places, Minneapolis, Buffalo, a couple other places, but we've got more people in that sort of process. And so I really want to highlight like this whole contract process shows why we need to, one of the biggest things BFN is going to be fighting for in 2025 and 2026 is we need to fight for the right to strike. And BFN will be building a campaign to fight for that right. It's a basic democratic right. That's one of the biggest things BFN is really, I think, going to stand for and be known for in the next couple of years. It's a basic democratic right that postal workers and federal workers are denied. It's the ultimate tool that workers have to fight for the things that we need. We'll be building a campaign, like I said, going into the convention in 2026 to try to actually put forward proposals for for how NALC can actually seriously take up this fight. 2026 is going to be a big year. And so we have 2025 to prepare for 2026. There's three major events happening: the national convention in LA, the national leadership elections, and the next contract. All those are happening in 2026. There's four things happening if you include the Labor Notes conference that June, which we're trying to get a big cohort of NALC members out, BFN, CLC, reform-minded NALC members. Labor Notes, just really quickly for people who don't know it, they're a monthly magazine all about unions, all about the fights that are happening. They've covered BFN, they've covered NALC, they've covered CLC, and what we've been organizing for over the last year. They've been a major help. Labor Notes that conference is a great place where there's reformers from unions across the country that come together and discuss these lessons. So anyways, that's a fourth thing if you know that are happening in 2026. So we have this year to build up BFN, get some chapters started, build a solid base, gear up the fight for the right to strike as well as whatever else comes out. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more than that. But that's what that looks like. And that February 16th Zoom meeting, which hopefully, Corey, I'll send you the link to that if you can.
Yeah,
If you
so I was
can,
just fixing to say that.
yeah. So if you can link that, you can find the
I
link
will.
as well on fightingnalc.com. It's right there on the front page, and we'll have materials. We have materials already on our website from previous interviews, from stuff we've written, but we'll have more materials coming out that people can use to have discussions with maybe it's one other person for now, but maybe you have a small handful of people who've heard about BFN from podcasts or come to our Zoom meetings that want to get started. And I just really encourage people, take your time with it and do it right. We want to build that strong foundation. That's how we can continue to build this reform caucus and for the years ahead and the fights and the battles in front of us as a union.
Well, I want to see y'all grow, man. I'm your biggest fan, and I want to see y'all grow. I love what you're about. Um, and people are like, well, we can't strike. You're talking about the ability to strike,
That's right. Yeah.
and any union needs the ability to strike. And so that's what the BFN is about. I see people all the time after I talk to you, we can't strike. No shit. Y'all are fighting for the ability, the right for the
Mhm.
NLC to strike per se. Like, you have a TA that comes out 1.3%. Some
Exactly.
bullshit like that, where we're completely disrespected. Carriers have nowhere to go, nowhere to turn.
Mhm.
We can't strike. We just have to sit here and take it. That's the reason I don't entertain any talk of striking. But the BFN is huge on we have to have the ability to strike. We have to have that leverage. You look at the dock workers, they just had that where they just threatened to strike.
Mhm.
That was what the dock. What was that organization? The long, not longshoremen. Was it
The
longshoremen?
ILA, International Longshoremen Association.
That's
Yeah.
it. And that their president came out and said, "I will shut the whole country down." I don't know if you saw that guy. He's
I
he's
did. Yeah.
he's something else, man. That dude he looks like a trip. But he said, "I'll shut the whole fucking country down if you
Hmm.
don't pay us what we're worth."
That's
And that
right.
some of it's lasted about 2 hours, and they got paid,
Hmm.
and UAW, anything like that, Teamsters, all those things have at least the threat of
Hmm.
it. But hell, the Postal Service will always throw you change, and then if you don't have a president that'll fight, like, ours now has no idea how to fight, this is
Hmm.
what you end up with. And now everybody's like, well, let's go to arbitration, cross our fingers. But yeah, I'm down with that 100%, man.
Appreciate that, Corey. Yeah, I mean that's just about all I got. I think I'd like to keep it rather short and sweet so we don't
Yeah.
have people falling asleep while they're listening. But it's always good to be on. Really want to encourage everyone to come out to that Zoom meeting on Sunday, February 16th at noon Central Time. We'll have the link easily accessible. We've already got well over 100. We've only sent out a couple emails. We've got well over 100 already registered. I'm hoping to get that number up. We want to get as many people out. If you're interested in joining BFN, building a chapter, if you're interested in even just talking about the lessons from the Vote No campaign, uh, register. Bring bring one other person. Can you bring one other person from your station, from your branch with you? Make sure they come, and it'll be the great place to really draw out those lessons and look forward to the fights ahead and really the opportunities we have to grow and really build a fighting union, build a fighting NELC going forward.
Well, send me all those links. I'll go ahead and put those up on everything I've got, and go ahead and get people registered. And I'll just hell, I'll put them up again next week as a reminder to try to get as many people as we can. How's that sound?
That sounds wonderful. I really appreciate that.
Tyler, you got an open door, brother. Anytime you want to come on, man, you message me like you do and say, "Hey, I need to be on," and I'll make it happen. All right, my brother.
I will do. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me,
All right,
Corey.
man. All right, Tyler. We'll see you, buddy. Bye.
Take care now.